Om Shanti, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to another Yoga Small Talk, and we continue with 7 minutes of Bhagavad Gita a day. So we've reached chapter 2. We saw that Lord Krishna starts the teaching to Arjuna with the highest knowledge, with Jnana Yoga, the knowledge of the self. And this is like an emergency care treatment for Arjuna, if you will. Arjuna is in a complete state of shock and has to be pulled out of it so that he can be given the rest of the knowledge that is needed for him to do his duty, in this case, to fight. So Lord Krishna starts with, from verses 11 on, with telling Arjuna that he is confusing his true nature with the body, and that the self does not really die. So the famous statement, "Thou hast grieved for those that should not be grieved for," comes in the beginning of the teaching. Then the science of the immortality of the soul follows, and then Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, because of this false identification with the physical body, you find yourself tossed from side to side by the pairs of opposites, pleasure and pain, heat and cold, censure and praise. And you just get tossed between them, and what you need to do is develop equanimity. And on the way you will have also willpower. And now Lord Krishna continues with the description of the nature of the self. So verses 19, 20, 21, 23, and 24 speak of the immortality of the self, or the Atman. We'll read the verses and then we will look a little bit into the commentary. 19. He who takes the self to be the slayer, and he who thinks it is slain, neither of them knows it slays not, nor is it slain. 20. It is not born, nor does it ever die. After having been, it again ceases not to be, unborn, eternal, changeless, and ancient. It is not killed when the body is killed. 21. Whosoever knows it to be indestructible, eternal, unborn, and inexhaustible, how can that man slay, O Arjuna, or cause to be slain? 23. We will get back to 22 later. Weapons cut it not, fire burns it not, water wets it not, wind dries it not. 24. This self cannot be cut, burned, wetted, or nor dried up. It is eternal, all-pervading, stable, immovable, and ancient. So, the self is changeless. It is immortal, and it is the non-dual. It is indestructible. Swami Shivananda tells us in the commentary, it exists in the 3 periods of time. It is Sat, existence. When the body is destroyed, the self is not destroyed. The body has to go change, has to undergo change in any case. It is inevitable. So whatever we will do, the body will change. This we know from our experience. But the self is not at all affected by it. And then in verse 20, Swami Shivananda reminds us what are the transformations that the body is undergoing. So the self-Atman is destitute of the 6 types of transformation, or bhava vikaras, which apply to everything else except the self, such as birth, existence, growth, transformation, decline, and death. So we are born. As we are born, we have this physical body. This physical body transforms on us all the time. And it grows, then at a certain level it also shrinks, as we know. It declines, and then it dies, it perishes. Basically, the life energy leaves and it goes back to the elements, it disintegrates. So those changes are not applicable to the self, which is our true nature. And the enlightened sage who knows the immutable and indestructible self through direct cognition, meaning through direct experience, this is the state of samadhi, a very, very elevated state of meditation in which we actually have this experience of our unity with the Supreme Self. So a person who has reached such a stage, he knows that for the self there is no such thing as being slain, there is no such thing as the act of slaying. It is unchangeable, it is immortal. And then to illustrate it more and to bring it to the level of what needs to happen on the battlefield, Lord Krishna gives another teaching, which is again a key verse: weapons cut it not, fire burns it not, water wets it not, wind dries it not. It's not subject to any of the elements. The elements have nothing to do with it, basically. It is indivisible. It has no parts, so it cannot be cut. It cannot be burnt. It cannot be wetted. It cannot be dried. And again, the principle repeats in verse 24. It cannot be cut, burnt, wetted, or dried. Why? Because it is eternal, all-pervading, stable, immovable, and ancient. So it's eternal. And this is very, very, very difficult to understand. Actually, even when we think that we understand it intellectually, we don't really do, because this goes beyond the mind. This very, very, very elevated state of samadhi is one that is beyond the mind. And how to think of it more and how to see it, how to get closer to a state of understanding it in the next verses. Om Shanti.